Old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar, if you please. It's after dark and we're gonna light it up. We got some fun in store for you, no tease. It's time for Midnight Edge. Dark, a little naughty, will hopefully make you chuckle, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody, so get ready quick on the double, cause it's time for Midnight Edge after dark.
Tonight, Paramount is on the chopping block, and Chris Hemsworth admits that he kind of screwed up. That and more. Welcome, everyone, to the show. It's time for Midnight's Edge After Dark. We have a Mikey here. Woo. He's jamming.
I'm digging that cool ass music.
Some people don't like it. About 2 or 3 people so far have said they didn't like it. But.
Well, I love the original Midnight's Edge intro. Rick Herrera's texting me, says I'm being a YouTuber right now. I'm not being a YouTuber. I'm being a subject. I'm here to be a subject matter expert on financial matters related to Paramount.
This is technically true, but you didn't even make it a whole of 2 minutes before somebody's calling you a YouTuber in the show.
Shit, they're doing it in the chat too.
Already in the chat?
Damn it.
You know, you do realize the more you resist to that, they're just going to keep doing that.
No, but if I don't stand my ground and fight, then
you should just accept it, embrace it, be like, I'm the best YouTuber you ever met.
No, I'm not. I'm not monetized. I don't have very many subs.
That's why you're the best.
Yeah.
Turn it on its head.
Oh, gee, Critical Drinker versus Mexican Iron Man. I think America would vote with Critical Drinker and everyone in the Commonwealth and beyond. Thank you.
I don't know. As much as I love Critical Drinker, and I do,
bro, if
I had to have a YouTuber in my corner with me at like a YouTube battle, it would probably be Mexican Iron Man.
Yeah.
It seems like no matter where I go, I'm constantly reminded that I never should have been a Zack Snyder broho, because I just right before this took Bambino for a walk, and guess whose video showed up in my feed is Zack Snyder Rebel Moon 2 review by Critical Drinker, and I'm just like, God, how did this? I mean,
it's gotta be a short video. It's crap. Don't watch it.
It is short.
All I want to say is this: knowing what I know now, I know that I have true friends on this show, because all this time, Clubby, Script, you, Tom, Price when he got here, Nick, everybody, you let me be a delusional Snyder broho for a full 2 years before I started to see the light, and you guys were my friends then. And you were my friends during my awakening, and you've been there to comfort and support me and never judge me, and even my hours of my saddest Snyderness.
Well, we accepted you because we knew you were a good character who just fell off the wagon.
You're like,
who else are we going to beat up on?
Is he smart? Awesome. Yes. Does he know about taxes? Yes. How about his taste in movies? Well... What about his taste in directors? What about his taste in directors?
I'll have you a Flash fan soon.
Fuck that. No, never. Never.
Oh, I can make him a Flash fan. I've got a screenplay somewhere.
Oh, here, let me write the story.
You know what's
Oh,
funny
no.
about you not being a YouTuber is every time we have you here, your intros make the go like 10 minutes. Anyway, continue your story.
Wait, what?
You were about to tell a Snyder story.
No, Flash.
Wait, is that something a YouTuber would
The
do?
Flash story. I don't know. Maybe not.
Okay, then I'll shut up.
No, he was just going to rag
I
on
want to
the
hear the
Flash.
story now.
I don't remember. Yeah. No,
You
I
were
don't know
about,
what.
to you were about to rag on the
He's gonna-
Flash.
Yeah, you're about to rag on the Flash.
Here's my Snyder. Here's my Snyder's non-Snyder Flash script. Okay, the scene. It's a summer's day, and you hear the tingling bells of the ice cream truck. Ding, 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 ding. Oh no, the ice cream truck is taking too long to get here. That is a job for the Flash, who goes and gets the ice cream and brings it to my kid. All right, story's over. Movie's done.
I'd watch that.
Boring
movie.
Give me a break. The Flash, the superhero. Oh, he runs fast. You know what? So is every other Mexican in my family when the siren started from the police car. All right. You know what? Not impressed with that superpower. Nope. Sorry.
What about when he vibrates and runs through things?
Mexican Iron Man vibrates if the lady's right.
Yes.
Anyway, we got clobbering
sorry.
times with us here. No, I was just introducing you, my friend. How you been?
What's up, man? I'm here, man. I'm here. I ran right into that one. Like the Flash. All right, man. I'm here. I'm glad to be here. Good to see you. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Well, we're glad to have you here. We also have with us a Canadian in the house. Like I have to have it like contingent. We have Script Doctor. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's been a good week so far, and I'm looking forward to it getting better and better.
If we have DEI here, it's all Canadian related.
Hey, Jill.
We have to have Canadian representation.
Hello, friends in the chat.
They have to see themselves on screen, those Canadians.
Yeah. And then we got Price of Reason in the house. How you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to have Mikey here.
Yes, it is. Nick was supposed to be here. I'm surprised he didn't show up yet, but
He'll make it.
I'm sure he will be shortly.
You know,
yes, let's see what's. Oh, go ahead.
Just I think a week or so ago, I had a question. Like I needed a favor from Mexican Iron Man, and I sent him a DM, and it took him so long to get back to me that by the time he got back to me, I'd already resolved all of my issues by myself. So in a way, he helped me by ignoring me.
What?
He helps even when he doesn't realize it.
He's such a good YouTuber. He doesn't even answer his DMs, and he solves problems.
Well, I think last week would have been right in the heart of the end of tax season if it would have been.
Oh, I see. He says, I have a theoretical question for you. He sent it to me. You sent it.
Sure, you should read it out loud. I mean,
yeah, he sent it at 2:48 p.m. April 17th, and then at 3:37, I said,
you were on vacation, wasn't it, or sick? One of the two.
I was on vacation and sick and Mexican, and so any of those means I get an excuse.
Why is the third one an excuse?
I don't know, because I don't.
That's racist against yourself.
He did me a favor. It was tough love.
I agree with your point, Price, and I thank Mike for not helping you, but helping you. Because he does do this without realizing this sometimes. He's more connected to the community than he realizes. But with that, speaking of the community, we have War Monkey, D-Bud, and Neil swinging around wrenches in the chat. So watch out, kids, because I know for a fact they don't watch where they're going. Oh, that's right. We also have Kadisa Wim here. Look at that. She says the Flash is lame, but Quicksilver is better because he's able to actually fight. Do you agree with that, Mike? Oh, he's a punk.
I hate Quicksilver.
I think people like the version that was in X-Men First Class.
Oh yeah, the comic is a jerkweed.
Yeah. We got Jeremiah, who also sent us in a member chat, and I saw you sent me the Japanese version of Godzilla -1, making me very jealous. Because I'm pretty sure I haven't heard yet if it has English subtitles, but I doubt it does because they're notorious for not doing that over there. And then he says the #1 hit on Disney Plus is The Chosen. Yeah, I saw that. That was weird that they licensed The Chosen from Angel. Did you guys see that?
That's
Which is funny
crazy.
because
But
The Chosen's
after all the
been
years that
available
they were
for
in
free.
court with Angel, they licensed The Chosen from them.
Yeah, because the Chosen has been free on the website for like the first 4 seasons.
What?
Yeah.
They were
I
showing
thought
it in
The
theaters
Chosen
and it was
on-
making money.
I thought I saw a couple of that on Amazon. Wasn't it on Amazon, Netflix? Where-
Yeah, it's
No, we're
been
talking
on one
about
of the other
the
channels
TV
too.
series, right? The
Yeah,
Chosen
yeah.
series. Yeah.
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 I think it was
it's
on
been available
Netflix.
yeah, you can watch it on they self-financed it, and you could watch it on their website ever since the beginning. Angel Studios then paid for, I think, season 4, and I guess
Is that
Disney,
the
for
one they
some
did
reason,
in theaters for the first few episodes or whatever? Because that made them some money too, I heard.
I didn't know if they did any theatrical stuff, but I
Yeah,
do
they
know
did.
that. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I
because
think it was like the first 3 episodes of the season or whatever. Yeah, they put in theaters.
Oh,
Limited release, but it did pretty well for them, from what I heard. Yeah, the other Angels like that little engine that could, like they, like Script just said, they can give you shit for free and they can still get people to pay for it. Like,
well, I mean, again, Angel's the one that they've got money. They have a lot of money to buy up a lot of things people haven't seen, and they have a decent marketing wing for their niche audience. So yeah, it's good on them.
I like them. I think that they're
Yeah.
doing a great job, and I
I'm
don't
not
know.
into everything they produce, but yeah,
No, I mean it's a niche type of thing, but I think that I love the spirit of what goes on in that company and the sort of their business model and their marketing and whatever they do. They're the opposite of like a Disney. They don't have a lot of money. They make decisions that they think are smart for them, and whether you like their content or not, just on a business level, I really like how they're operating.
They're like the religious Blumhouse.
Yeah, it's kind of, yes.
only smarter because they're not going to turn around and spend $400 million on something like The Exorcist.
True.
Well,
Exactly.
that's I don't know what that is something else is going on there. Like I don't know
There,
what
that is
was.
I still don't understand that. That to
Yeah.
me, it makes absolutely no sense to anybody. I don't get it. But anyway, that being said, moving on, we got Olaf here, who's been a member for 32 months, and he's a mod supreme over at Mr. H's stream. We hang out over there. So for those who joined us from that stream, thank you for being here. Yeah, we're caught up so far on the chats on the member side of things and all that business. And Nick is here. How you doing, Nick?
What's going on, Tom? How you doing, sir? Nice to
Hello,
see
bud.
you, Mike, Klobby, Price, and Script. Hello, Chat and Wrenches.
Hey, what's up?
Glad to have you.
Oh, yeah.
So
What's up?
no, we're about to talk about this Paramount news because we got Mikey here to help us out with this. Because yesterday we had probably one of the most eventful. I can't even be fucking serious. Can't even joke about it. Let's be real.
You
was
can't
one of the
even get it out. You were so shocked and disappointed. You don't even know where to start.
I was so upset because I don't normally get invited to the VR streams for these things, and I'm like, all right, finally, something up my alley. Paramount.
Right.
And it was 7 minutes of heaven.
7 minutes of nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. In fact, we did a better job of doing their earnings call than they did. Because Valiant actually broke down all the stuff that they actually released. And we got to the end of it and we're like, I don't understand why they didn't even say something, because they're not in the worst shape as far as streamers goes, as we've been saying, right? Like they're kind of more closer to where Peacock is than where Disney is in that respect. But that being said, neither here nor there. The other part was they didn't lose as much money this year. They also didn't release as much this year so far. That's another thing. But Mikey, or you just went off screen, but
I'm here.
okay,
Sorry.
I didn't know if you were still.
I was just like, I'm the only one on camera, so I'm like, why should I?
You
be
can
on
go off. I just didn't want to bring you into the conversation if you're about to step away for a second or
Nope.
something.
I mean,
Not-
I'm technically
I'm
on
here
camera.
for this.
Just
So what
Yeah.
normally would be big news, as we were all talking about over the weekend, rumors were heavy and
Well, let's set the
unsurprising
stage.
to most of us. Yeah,
Allow
go ahead,
me-
please.
Allow me to set the stage for the kiddies watching around the globe. This show, going into this, we knew 3 things. One, we knew that there was great anticipation about what could be some announcements about things that might be announced or might be in the works in terms of IP properties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's number one. Number 2, we know that there'd been much discussion in the preceding months about who would buy Paramount. Would someone buy Paramount? Would they buy all of it? Would they buy some of it? We knew that. Then leading up to the weekend of the actual call, breaking on Friday, hitting hard on Saturday, were rumors and speculation that the longtime executive and current CEO of Paramount would be ousted sometime on Monday before, during, or after the call. That is our backdrop, right, Tom?
Sounds about right to me.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Like I said, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's all pretty much everything I could say, only better.
So that's what we had. And then Tom, take us through what we discovered when the call went live.
We didn't discover much of anything. I could literally play you the call now because it was like
Why
7
don't we?
minutes. We could, but I gotta find it. Or I could just go to Valiant stream from yesterday. But no, the call was this. It was pretty much, hello. Sorry you had to go, Bob, but we appreciate everything you did. We're not taking any questions. How's everybody doing? Great. See ya.
Actually, in all seriousness, the call started with 1.5 to 2 minutes of disclosures. Then they said thank you to the CEO for his service. Then the funniest statement was that we have all kinds of great ideas and initiatives and programs and strategic visions that we want to go over with you, but we're not going to do that today, but we'll be right back with you. Here's the earnings information for last quarter. Gotta go by.
Well, Gary of Nerdrotic posted my favorite meme of it so far. He did the, you guys got big gulps. All right, then. See you later. The Dumb and Dumber scene. Because that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, hold up. Time out. You just got started. This is because we were talking about, like, you made an analogy of it being a quickie in the red light district. I'm like, quickie my ass. This is barely a handy. And then Valiant's like, yeah, you didn't even get no Astroglide with this one. Like, it was just a quick, and you're done. Like, yeah, they didn't say much of anything, and we know why. And I think that's kind of what the real story is here, more than Bob Backish stepping down, because this was expected, especially with somebody coming in to buy the company or merge with the company, whether it's Skydance or somebody else at this point. We don't know for sure, although it's looking more like Skydance, right? I mean, the real story isn't Bob Backish stepping down. It's the future of Paramount and what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah.
What is the future of Paramount? I mean, Script, have you heard anything about anything from anybody over there?
Not yet. The only thing I do know is that of all the prospective people interested in it, Skydance is the only one that could probably get away with the FTC not coming down on them. Because they've had such a long integrated relationship already. They would be able to market as it's not pulling anything out of the market, nor is it boosting anyone else out. It's basically just one of the few production houses that has had a long-term contract with Paramount is really just taking charge at this point. And now they're just making it official on the books. And that's probably going to be the most likely scenario, with maybe a couple of areas of what National Amusement has altogether might being sold off in little pieces, but I guarantee you it's not going to be any of their IP.
I think I'll
drink
in
some
that
booty
example
sweat
to that.
I have a hard time being concerned about the FTC after they allow the Disney and Fox thing to happen, though.
Well, the thing is, because they allowed it to happen, they've been incredibly regretful of that. Like, that's the other part too. It's like they made a huge mistake, and it's like, well, do we repeat that mistake, or do we learn from that and not do anything ever again?
Yeah, good point.
Nearly like that. And the other part too is some of the right now, the fate of a lot of the medium studios is still up for question, because while the budgets are being low, the box office intake is also really low. So it's like, can these studios grow if the box office doesn't start to catch up with the content being put out? So who is going to take the reins? Is it still just going to be Disney, Warner Brothers, and Universal, kind of like the top three now? And does Apple technically really count, because all of the revenue really comes from the products and almost none of it actually comes from their entertainment division? And with Amazon, it's also the Prime subscriptions and their shipping services as opposed to any of the revenue coming in for their content. So are they really classified as proper studios, or is they just dabbling in it? And so there's this whole question up in the air with regards to what is the status of the studio system in Hollywood today, and are there options or ways for the smaller studios to grow and actually compete in the near future? And because content has been dicey, and because distribution has been oversaturated with a whole bunch of trash, and because studios really screwed up with their development of the model and distribution of their streaming services, everything is kind of in a very fragile state right now. So any talks of mergers are going to be heavily scrutinized, because beforehand, when Disney was putting it on the table to buy Fox, they were multi-billion-dollar a year revenue stream. They were owners of Hollywood, essentially. They were the trailblazers, and they saw that basically with Disney's acquisition of that the industry would only grow. Instead, what ended up happening is literally the following year they shrunk dramatically. And so yeah, it's nobody knows for sure what the heck is going to happen next in that studio system.
Well, the aftermath of what happened after this call isn't good. Tom, if I might replace your screen for a second.
Please do.
The past year, the high of the stock was $23. We're now at $11.39.
Is that the voting shares or the general?
The general trading shares.
Trading shares, okay.
Well, this is is this a result of the shitty earnings call they did, or what?
Yeah, I mean,
think that's just regular par for the course, because
they were actually on an uptick for a while there. That's what I was wondering.
Well, no, they were on an uptick from $10.37 up to $12. I mean, they're back down $11.39.
Okay, so just even.
They're still performing better than Warner Brothers right now, because Warner Brothers was hovering around 8 and change for a while there.
Which I still don't understand, but I think it's because somebody explained that to me.
That's a market bias as opposed to an actual rating of the numbers right now, which is good for me because I'm buying their stock.
I'm going to get to
that as advice. I just want to do that so that
Paramount, right?
I wish I had the money, man.
Seriously, 100% on point. The problem with Paramount right now is that they are over-debted, over-leveraged. They're too much in debt, over-leveraged, and all the IPs, all of which different people on this panel love in different ways for different reasons, for God knows how many different years or decades, are not generating any income, are not having any return on asset value, and all these IPs are languishing because they're not generating any kind of returns that are meaningful, and their debt is still stuck there. And they can't even sell. I don't even think that if they don't come in, if someone doesn't come in and fix this balance sheet and take this company in the right direction, this company doesn't even, I believe, doesn't even have the prospect of selling off its pieces and paying off its debt.
Yeah, you're right.
What do you think, Script? Yeah.
No, exactly. They need massive change in management. What's weird is that their mid-tier level of management has actually been pretty good, because they've been actually investing in a lot of smart stuff. The mid-tier stuff is what invested in the Yellowstone, what invested in South Park, what invested in the Ninja Turtles. All those things has basically said, we have these IPs. We are also seeing this talent emerging. Some of it is actually really affordable. Some of it's a little pricey. They mitigate the risk and they get it in there. The problem is that the distribution has been a little rocky. Last year's strikes didn't help, but Paramount was actually not part of the AMPTV that was causing the strikes. It was another Bob in the room doing that. But they have this valuable IP that is technically more valuable than the company, but they haven't done anything really well on the marketing side of things to get people back in. They had a brilliant stroke of luck and lightning in the bottle with Top Gun Maverick, and unfortunately they squandered that. They didn't do anything to kind of bring people in. They should have started promoting, like, okay, we've got Top Gun Maverick. Let's do like a Maverick, some sort of like Maverick special on Paramount Plus. Let's do a Tom Cruise thing going on with all the product that they have there, because they have a whole bunch of his stuff. They never did any cross promotions, nothing to get people to go to their streaming service. They also did nothing else to actually pair up. I don't recall many areas actually having the double feature where you could watch Top Gun followed by Top Gun Maverick, which would have been a great thing to do, because that would have actually built in some additional revenue as well, considering the fact that they have like $1 billion hit on their hands. There is unfortunately no follow-up going on. And right, I think the first good step is, Bob Backish is out. Whoever steps in to fill that role, I can't remember who that is going to be.
They
they've
got like
got
3 or 4 people now taking over
yeah,
till
they've got a very small window to just try and get a little bit of change in progress. I think they're doing something with SpongeBob on the horizon. That's going to be good for getting the kids market and the stoner adults in to watch their stuff. So and then the other part too is they haven't released what their new ad model plan is going to be for Paramount Plus. What's really interesting is that this week Warner Brothers had a soft announcement that they're going to be doing the Max exclusives are going to remain, but a lot of the stuff that's going to be aired that Warner Brothers produces is going to be on Max 24 hours later. They're doing the Hulu model now. So some of the cartoon specials that are owned by Warner Brothers, some of the television productions that they have connected with some of the networks, those are supposed to be featured on Max 24 hours after they air on broadcast. So they're trying to double dip their content like Hulu did to get people to go to their subscription service after the fact if they can't meet it on over the air terrestrial TV. So that's kind of interesting. That's the right tactic to do essentially, because for those that, if you miss it live, it's like, okay, well, at least tomorrow I can catch it on streaming.
well, and that was kind of my surprise is they didn't really boast about anything. They didn't get into anything. I thought we were going to get some promotional things about things that were coming out. We didn't. That being said, I just there's 2 things that really kind of led to where Paramount is now. And I said to Andre yesterday, it'd be funny if we could, time travel back to ourselves 5 years ago and tell ourselves the state that Paramount would be in. I don't even think we'd believe it. I don't think we could believe that they could get this low. So at this point, I think the 2 things that really put them in this position were splitting up to begin with. The remerger was a complete disaster. That didn't work out the way it should.
Competent to oversee the remerge.
Yeah, that was a problem. And then 2 being Paramount Plus, aka CBS All Access. Those 2 things, in my opinion, led to where they're at now, with number 3 being the next point. And this is where Skydance being the one that's, I guess, in the top position right now to buy out Sherry Redstone's shares and take control of the company. Like, they're the other part of the reason why they're where they are right now. Like, let's not forget about this. They have been producing 90% of the garbage for the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, that has gotten Paramount to this place. Right? So, like, to me, them taking over is not going to help the problem. In fact, chances are David Ellison himself would be the one to take over the company. And I do not think this is the guy that destroyed Terminator, guys.
I think if they had just done licensing stuff that Scripps talked about at length, I think if they had never entered the streaming war, I think this company was severely distracted by trying to be a player in the streaming war and had and the arrogance and hubris of their catalog and the IPs on which they rest, combined with their blatant greed to try to become a streaming company that had a Netflix stock valuation and try to chase Disney and the others that were moving into the market space, was the most asinine management ideas that any executives could have done, coupled with what you're talking about, Tom, which are these idiotic budgets that they approved for movies that went nowhere and projects that went nowhere.
Well, yeah, and one thing I reminded people was that this is the same company that had executives that were greenlighting shit like monster trucks, right?
Oh God, yeah.
And Monster Trucks, for those who don't know, was a movie that was basically a pitch from a 4-year-old.
Yeah, because that's mixed. It's like you can take a pitch, but you have to still make it for an audience, and they didn't.
Well,
make
a 4-year-old shouldn't come in until you're doing focus group shit. Right? Like that, they shouldn't be coming up with your fucking movie.
No. Part of the focus group is like, okay, if we need to make a kids movie, great. So we'll ask kids what they like. That's part of the focus group, and that's what that producer did. But what's worse is that he didn't really go beyond it. He just took that pitch.
Well, he went from
okay, turn it into a script, and it's an open writing assignment, which means that it's not about the quality. It's just about meeting the deadline, because whatever the producer says at that point is what's going to be in the final product. And the fact that he's taking advice from his kid, as opposed to maybe talking to other children as well, figuring out the stuff that they like, and then realizing, oh wait, I'm not making this for my 4-year-old. I'm making this for the 4-year-old that's in 2 years when this movie comes out. So I got to start thinking a little bit more broadly. And he didn't do that. And then what else? What did he do? Didn't he like co-finance that with like China, and then they got pissed off?
Well, and that's the next thing that killed Paramount is they were the ones who got so deep in bed with China that when they lost the Chinese funding, that crippled them.
Yeah.
Like if you go back here, like, because this all happened between Top Gun and now. And because remember, they originally had the issue with the Top Gun, the jacket thing. And then they pulled out, what was it, after the last Transformer movie before Bumblebee? Trying to remember somewhere, but no. Because Top Gun was done for a couple of years before it came out. We got to remember that.
Yeah, well, China already left the investment from.
That's what I'm trying to figure out is when they left. But I remember us talking about that. And that was a moment where they basically were kneecapped because there went all of their funding. Like good portion of it anyway, because they didn't have any money. If you notice, look at their output since then. The biggest movies they put out have been Mission Impossible. Really?
Yeah. No, they've put out a lot of small stuff. That's the problem. Like
even the Transformers have been shaved down quite a bit.
Why did China pull out their funding?
They were very upset with how much.
I don't know what you're doing, Mikey, but you're still sharing
financial information. So China was really, because China had a front load investment with Paramount, so they put up a lot of cash for their productions. And when a couple of their movies did not bring in a return, China decided to withdraw their investment. And as a result, that's no disposable cash or cash on hand, no coffers for Paramount to draw fund from to co-finance their production. So Paramount would go they'd do their pre-sales to cover part of the budget. They'd then get China to cover the other half. They'd use that as collateral to get a loan and maybe even gap financing. Then they'd put it all together. They'd then distribute it out. And ideally the performance of the box office would then pay off any of the outstanding debts and then the returns on the investments. But because Paramount had so many bombs, and also another big key factor too is 3 Star Trek movies with massive budgets that did not return as well. And those Star Trek movies were also partly financed by China. It just kind of all snowballed into the point where China realized they spent a few $1 billion and literally did not get a cent back.
Well, anytime you involve J.J. Abrams and billions of dollars, somebody's going to lose money eventually.
Well, what's even worse is that it appears that a lot of other not really reputable producers, but a lot of other producers have been using the JJ model, which is basically a front-loaded production that they can claim first, and they don't have to worry about any of the back-end deals, which is why we're seeing over at Disney these massively inflated budgets. Like, there's no reason for an MCU film or a Star Wars film to ever exceed $180 million, yet it does. Why? Well, not only are they reshooting the movie again, they're incorporating unnecessary expenses. There's tons of like executives and middlemen at the top tier that command tons of pay. Trying to source all the details as where all that money is coming from, where it's going, has been a nightmare for a lot of people. But you can actually trace the pattern back to JJ when he got with Paramount and Star Trek. Why did a Star Trek movie under JJ Abrams that normally only needs about $60 million to be in production and get distributed cost around 180 to 200?
I have the Tom Connors was right yesterday. Breaking news from 2 hours ago. Sorry, I was trying to save my mortgage payment history while I was bringing up this Deadline article. But there was a deadline, an important deadline set for today, which was the Charter Communication Spectrum carriage.
I think that was Valiant who actually had brought that up.
I thought it was you.
Pretty sure it was Valiant, but I'll take credit for it since he's not here.
Well, no, the comment, I agree. Valiant brought it up, but what you said that you made a comment in yesterday's live call that they're in the middle of something and they can't talk about shit. Well, this is that something to large measure, because their ability, if that carriage deal had expired today, Tuesday at midnight, without getting this extension, which they just got a couple hours ago, then that would have thrown this company into all kinds of hiatus, like severe hiatus.
Yeah, that was something he talked about. Yeah, because as you guys know, when these happen, this is when they pull CBS and all of Paramount's networks off of a Charter Cable or Warner Cable or whoever they're arguing with at that time. And that can cause a huge disturbance in their customer base.
I mean, I'm going to go back to what Script said about mismanagement. The fact that they were even up against the wall with these carriage negotiations, given what just happened with Disney with their carriage negotiations, is asinine.
Like, well, I think they thought that the sale was going to go through by now. That's why.
But that's not how you run a business. Like, as an executive, you've got to run the business as
well. They're children.
Exactly, Tom. It's like you're already planning. It's like, here's an analogy. It's like your kid's already planning on playing, I don't know, with his PS5 games online with kids. Meanwhile, you don't even have a paycheck to clear, let alone buy the PS5 for the kid, and the kid's already planning on getting it under the tree. I mean, just that they were, this is a company where it's a bunch of morons that keep like chasing some cute little light, whether it's Paramount Plus, which was previously CBS All Access, yada, yada, yada. Whatever it is, it seems like they're just little children staring at the next new glowy, shiny thing instead of running the business like a freaking business. And like you said, Script, we brought your name up yesterday on the call, but like literally all of us as a team, we could get together 5 to 10 of us, and we could have Paramount fixed within, at least on the right track, in 6 months, flat.
Oh yeah,
profitable
in 2 years.
Well, and the sad part about this is that Sherry Redstone is the big speed bump here. She is the one getting in the way of a lot of this crap, and this is almost all her fault at this point, despite everything that's led up to this, because this company should have been sold already. Yeah, that's the other thing. But Price, you were about to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying before that because Script was talking about J.J. Abrams, how the budget was supposed to be 60 and it ends up being 180 million. So I was going to say that I feel like he's a walking, talking pyramid scheme of sorts.
He is. They pocket half the money.
Yeah.
They literally pocket half the money, Price. And we've almost had that confirmed several times over from so many productions that's what these production companies do. And that's kind of basically their cost of doing business with them, or whatever you want to call it, right, Script? I mean,
it's a hidden overhead. That's the other part too, because, and Tom and I has brought this up like almost 4 years ago. So many producers in Hollywood hated the superhero movies and those tentpole types of films because they cost too much. They wanted the medium and low budget films because they'd always have stand a better chance of making more money for them, because in Hollywood, yes, you want to get as much upfront as you can, but if you really strike it big with a back end deal, you are coasting off of that for 3 to 5 years easily before the residuals start to actually drop because of further,
or if it's a bigger hit forever. Yeah,
exactly. But when you have something that's 200 million and you have points on the gross on that, well, even then those points get diminished, because when you have such a high budgeted aspect, there's other things that cut into the cost. So maybe you have a point on gross and maybe you have another point on net. Negotiated both. And the thing is that when you have so much money that's going into one production, that money cannot go anywhere else, which means you have less movies to pitch and get funded. So that's the other reason. And we've seen this kind of narrow decline where we've seen the amount of movies that have been output, the amount of movies of output has been diminished, but the amount of streaming shows and television shows has actually tripled or quadrupled in some regard. And basically that's where all the producers are going. It's like, well, if we can't finance our feature film, maybe we can like pad it out and extend it to like a streaming series and then get it done there. And that has had detrimental effects as well, because what the studios are saying, no, we want at least $100 million, $150 million big budget tentpole film to get that $1 billion box office. And if you don't have the idea that's strong enough for that, we're not going to be entertaining your idea,
which is against
balance anymore.
Yeah, which is against everything Hollywood was about. And I said this, I think it was on the morning show the other day, that the 1990s were probably the most lucrative time ever, hands down, for Hollywood. And they got greedy. They got fucking greedy, and they lost their way, and they didn't realize it, but they had a gold mine. Because what we're talking about here is these production companies, because that's all they were. Like, these production companies would come in. Here's a great example. The last Exorcist movie before the new one, right? This was 15 years ago or whatever it was. Rennie Harlan directed it. Well, guess what? There was a version before that Paul Schrader directed that got released later, but that one was made first because they did it, spent the money on it, tested it, they didn't like it, and they had brought in Rennie Harlan, and he reshot the entire fucking movie. And they did both of those movies for next to nothing, and they pocketed half of the production costs, Morgan Creek did. And it still didn't cost all that much because then they still knew how to budget these films to where you could make the movie for like $20 million, tell Warner Brothers it's going to cost you 40, take half of that money as your cost of doing business with Morgan Creek and because they own the Exorcist rights. Boom. There you go. And they did that twice.
Yeah.
And still didn't spend as much as they do on one Marvel movie. See, that's the problem they have here is they used to be able to make these movies for very cheap. And I brought up a lot of movies, especially in the 90s and 80s. So basically through like the 80s through up through the 90s, the video age was the prime time because you had so many revenue streams coming in for these movies that even movies that we consider flops weren't really flops. Waterworld's a great example. Movie
they made their money back on VHS and DVD.
And then some. Because it actually did almost make its money back in theaters. It pretty much did. But between video homes, and video sales, but you also had rental sales. So that's another thing they've kicked out of the roost. And that was a very lucrative because they would charge $80 to $100 a tape. So that was money in their pockets, yo. Like they would make almost as much or more just selling the first rental round as they did on the movie itself in theaters because the demand for the video was pretty much on however much they made in the movies. So
yeah, Blockbuster did the math. It would take 28 days in order for the chain to make their money back on the rentals that were purchased for of that film.
And they also figured out they had to have X amount of copies in the store at a time to make that kind of money.
Oh yeah, that's why you'd get. I think the average number was between 50 and 75 units is your bare minimum that you can have.
So that's that. Then they got a deal, but even on that deal, I bet you they still paid what $30-$40 a tape.
Oh yeah, like for Canada, because when I worked there, it was Canada CA1. They paid basically 10% above the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So if it was a $24 tape, they usually paid around $30-$31 on that, and that's just. But the thing is, they also would get like a credit with regards to the fact that they could. They would have permission to resell those tapes as previously reviewed or previously watched.
Okay, so it's a little different probably up in Canada then, but yeah. See, because like here,
it's the same stipulation because Blockbuster had a very different system than like Hollywood Video or any of the other mom and pop stuff because they were so big they could get away with a lot more.
That part is true. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
What I find so sad about this entire damn situation is that people like us, each of us on this panel, I'm sure has a different Paramount property that we care a lot about. Is that due to the absolute mismanagement of this entire organization? And I'm going to say this from Sherry Redstone all the way up, down, and sideways and out. We have gotten there's so much lost potential in all of these IPs and all of these properties that they control the distribution or the licensing rights to, that it's just fucking tragic. I mean, from a cultural standpoint, there's so much. Paramount is literally one of the grandfather studio companies. It's one of the legacy grandfather companies of Hollywood. And it has literally been corporatized and driven to the ground as nothing more than like a charge card to be taken advantage of and people to enrich their egos, their pocketbooks at the expense of us, the fans of all these different IPs.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be called famous players, and there's a reason for that because they were the most famous of players out in the field, and they became Paramount. They are a studio that I hold dear to my heart because they helped get me my start. They gave me my first internship that got me rolling, and then unfortunately the company split up, which is the dumbest thing they could have done. And then when they brought it back together, which was a smart move, they picked all the wrong people to bring it back together. They didn't do it. It was like the most terrible merger we've seen to date when it comes to this as well. Yeah, Sherry Redstone, I don't know what was going on with her because she's a majority shareholder. Like she's got like over 60% shares, voting shares, right, Mikey? And she should have a lot of power to basically say, we are not doing this. We are doing this, get it done. But she didn't. And I don't know if that had to do with animosity to what her father, between her and her father, by the time he kind of parted ways with all that. I don't know what is going on there, but if she actually really cared about this company, this legacy, she literally had the voting power to get everything done properly and didn't do it.
And has had that power all along.
Yeah. because that's
It's
what
so
Sumner
frustrating
was
because
deliberately, because he's an
it's so
untrustworthy
frustrating
bastard.
it's exactly. It's literally all she had to do was surround herself with the proper advisors and have some humility, and this company could become once great again. It's not that difficult, frankly. But
no, what's funny is that, yeah, Paramount.
it's like she's
At
got a
one
date.
time-
It's like she's running Paramount's become Paramount Executive Daycare, where all these execs are running around and playing around with blocks, different blocks all over the fucking daycare. Like, oh, here, like you're all, I'm gonna be Kurtzman. Oh, Star Trek, woo! You know, it's like they're all just running around and throwing shit around like Legos, and you come in and it's just a fucking mess.
Well, yeah, and it's Les Moonves was another part of that with his CBS All Access, and
Fuckless Moonves.
you know, and
Yeah.
separating the company was one of the dumbest ideas, not just because of what it did now for what's going on now, but the time they decided to do it made absolutely no sense. It was when other companies were starting to conglomerate and buy up all these other things. Like, for instance, it was in the same time period that Warner Brothers soaked up New Line Cinema and all their other ancillary things and shut down all their production houses and stuff. And it was no longer a New Line Cinema. It was just run under, it was just a logo. You know what I mean? Like,
it was a brand, and then that's when Bob Shea left, and he started Unique Features in Beverly Hills. And
so when everybody else in the industry was doing the absolute opposite, they decided, well, we're going to split this thing up. And not only did Star Trek get affected, like pretty much anything that had a movie and a television show, for some dumb fucking reason, they decided to give CBS control over.
That's because that has to do with the fact that they had no idea what they're doing from a distribution and TV standpoint, and they're just like, "Oh, we'll just let them do whatever the fuck they want." Because
so basically, that applies.
They're like,
to
they're the big daddy on the block. They've been around forever. We'll follow their lead, guys. Trust me, guys. We want to follow their fucking lead.
Well, the weird part about it is that I was recently watching the recent well, not so much recent, but this was a DVD release of Mission Impossible after the split. And it doesn't have the CBS logo on it. It has the Paramount logo on it. And this is for the TV series.
So that's weird. Maybe they did give Paramount that. I'd have to look that one up.
Because I've been actually trying to look that. I've even had a conversation with.
That's what I was trying to figure out with you. Because the whole JJ thing kind of gave me pause, because the time that he got involved was right after the separation, and I'm like, that's weird. And I said, because also that's it was right before Star Trek, and from what I remember hearing or reading somewhere, that it wasn't just Star Trek that was affected by that. It was all their television / properties that were both television and movie. Right.
It's supposed to be. But the weird thing is that when you take a look at like the Star Trek DVDs and all the stuff, that's got all the CBS logo on it. But when I was watching my Mission Impossible stuff, it's like, nope, it's all Paramount. I'm like, that is really weird, because that should be CBS.
I mean, they have the Paramount logo on the beginning of the Blu-ray and stuff like that, but it also has the CBS
at the very
logo.
end of it, like at the end of the tracks and all that stuff. It still goes, this is a Paramount home video release. I'm like, wait a minute.
You know what they probably did as part of the split up? They went down a list of all the assets and they assigned values, and then some moron accountant. So one of my moron colleagues probably handed them this list and said, "This is a schedule of how you guys are going to settle up, and you get this, you get that, you get this, you get that." And it was part of the agreement related to
because
the asset structure.
Because I got the Odd Couple.
I've seen that happen before. The reason I'm telling you that is I've seen that happen before, where companies will split apart with this bill, and they'll just sit down, they'll draw a list, and they'll say, "Here's the value. You get this, you get that." It's almost like it's a divorce, and like, okay, you get the house, I get the country house, you get that car, I get that car. Even though, like, wait, the fuck, I paid for that cat. Doesn't matter. You get that.
I can see what probably happened here, because, like I said, I'd have to go dig up my Odd Couple box set, but I do remember after the remerger is when I got the box set that had not only the movies in it, but 10 episodes from the TV show, and then they re-released the TV show on disc. And when I'd have to see the difference of when it came out before and what logo was on it compared to now. But that's a good point, Script. But I think you might be right, Mike. They probably sat down, and since like Odd Couple and Star Trek were still probably more associated with television, CBS probably got those, because they did do the Odd Couple remake TV show as well. And then Mission Impossible, since they already had the 2 movies at that point, they probably just said, fuck it, we're going to give Paramount, because Skydance was also involved as well. And J.J. Abrams came in Bad Robot as well. So, like, it was a mess anyway. Because that was what I was trying to get the script and acting about that. I thought timing of that was really funny.
I know what I'm saying sounds crazy, but I've seen it in actual transactions at $100
No, I
million,
believe it.
$1 billion level. I've seen it happen before where it'll make no sense except to the people that are in the room that are trying to get a deal done and have no idea of what they're actually doing. They're just looking at it as names and asset values, and they just go.
Man, I was in a subject of that because the internship program I was in, they didn't know. They just disbanded it. They didn't associate it to any studio. They didn't put it to Paramount. They didn't put it to CBS, even though it was partly of both. It's like you're just gone. Like nobody was responsible. That whole wing, it was just completely like purged from the company. And then I guess they picked up and did their own stuff afterwards, but it wasn't for many months after the fact. And it's like, okay, so yeah, you just get I was the kid that they forgot to give custody rights to. That's essentially what it was in that split.
Yeah, and Jed says here a bunch of Paramount TV shows that were released before 2006 split were in CBS Home Entertainment. Yeah, and I remember they had the new logo for CBS Home Entertainment.
Which I saw on the Star Trek stuff, but it was so weird.
Yeah, it's all on the Star Trek stuff. Yep.
On the Mission Impossible.
And I'm
stuff,
thinking now, I don't think that
11.
I'm pretty sure that the Odd Couple is all Paramount. Now that I'm thinking about it, I have to look again, but I'm like 80% sure because I sent you a picture of it when I got it that one day, the whole box set. But yeah. Anyway, let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat about this. Actually, I'm going to save that one, Nikki D, because that leads us into our next story. How's that sound? Hi Boy says my songs are showing up on TikTok, which is funny because I don't even have a fucking TikTok. If this is true, people please send me the links to these because I want to see this or whatever, because this is news to me if this is the case. Because they haven't been all that popular yet on YouTube. I mean, they're doing okay, you know, but yeah. So anyway, they're niche. I mean, I get it. G-Man sends in 5 and says, I would love nothing more than Paramount bringing Kathleen Kennedy in as a new. Oh my God. You know,
and they still wouldn't fire her. She could run into the ground and they would still celebrate her.
Yeah, she honestly probably couldn't do much worse than what they're doing now, though.
What?
Be a lateral move, maybe.
Pretty much.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, because
nowadays,
how could you do worse?
Acknowledge they can do worse because they always will find a way.
Well, here's how it could be done worse, because apparently the rumors are circulating around now more so that Kathleen Kennedy is actually very easy to manipulate. So it depends on who you've got in there that's doing the manipulation. So she could do great if you've got someone like me in there manipulating her to make the right decisions, or she could do terrible if she got someone like Dave Filoni in there, which we've seen over at Star Wars.
Honestly, it would probably be a better move for her, not so much because she wouldn't be able to be so creatively involved. See, that's the problem, I think, right now with Star Wars. And I believe where you're coming from, Script, because, you know, this whole thing coming out about, oh, well, she's not this woke warrior that she thinks she is. Well, it's like, okay, what I can believe to that is maybe more so that, yeah, she's listening to all the young people around her. Right? Like, I'm sure she's got like a 20-something-year-old fucking assistant.
She's got Carrie Beck, who's like in her early 30s, who's probably
and people like that.
Exactly. Go home. She needs to go home, never come back to the office. She needs to sit in her garden and knit sweaters, and it would be best if we never see her again.
Yeah. And I hate to say this because it's true, though. Kathleen Kennedy did know how to put people together, right? Like that was one of her big powers when she was, you know, Spielberg,
like 40 years ago.
Well, she's a team maker and a problem solver, but the problem is that if you don't point her in the right problem to solve, she's not going to solve it. So if you say that the problem is that there's too many men in Star Wars, she's going to solve it, but it's not going to be the right solution because that's not really the right problem.
But I do stand by that she could probably do a better job as president of Paramount than she ever could as Lucasfilm, because she wouldn't be so.
That would be the biggest failing upwards ever.
One thing.
She doesn't even deserve. The only thing she deserves is that security comes and takes her and escorts her out of the building.
I hate saying it, Price, but before this Star Wars bullshit, she was one person I would say that, yeah, she should probably be running. How is she not the first female CEO of a company?
I don't know. It's too late.
How was it fucking? How was it fucking?
I would rather, dude. I'm gonna vomit hearing you talk like this, Tom. I'd rather talk about Zack Snyder. I'd rather talk.
Maybe Zack Snyder and her can run Paramount together.
There you go.
Snyder is relegated to Netflix, never getting out of that hole.
No, yeah, Snyder's a totally different conversation. Now, I'll give you an example though, and this is another thing I joked about. I would love to go back and tell old us about in the past is, and I've said this before, but you would have never been able to get me to believe in a million fucking years that Tom Rothman would have been one of the best things to happen to Sony in over 25, 30 years. Because he was the worst thing that's ever happened to Fox. Like, he almost drove that company into the fucking ground. And then he goes over to Sony and saves them from, like, people don't understand. Like, Sony was literally lower on the totem pole than Lionsgate there for a few years. Like, they were coming in lower than fucking Lionsgate in revenue, guys. Like, they were, that shouldn't be. They should be in the top 4 easy. Because it's fucking Columbia TriStar Sony. They're a huge player, right? And he came in and he's like, all right. He shuffled around some of this comic book shit. And he's pushing these other things now. I'm going to be surprised if fucking Craven even happens. Has it been filmed yet?
It's been filmed. It's
been pushed back again.
That's what I was just saying. Pushed back again.
But it was supposed to be out last August. August. And now this August, and now that's pushed back again. So it's filmed all right, probably.
Well, and I can guarantee you why I got pushed back, because after Madam Web, he's like, we need to fix this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And it don't matter how much they fix it, it's gonna tank. Yeah, it is gonna tank.
And I hate to say, this Aaron Taylor Johnson guy, I don't think he's not leading man material.
No. Well, not just that. Craven, the reason it's working out is because he is so anti everything that Hollywood is right now. That's why it's working out for him. He's the right guy at the right time. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the right guy, probably. Yeah. Because he'd fuck everything up. Because he kind of is when it comes to the IP side of things over at Sony. They can't get their IPs off the ground. But you know what? Sony don't have as big of IPs as Paramount does. And that's going back to the point that, you know, Mikey and Script were making, and I was making yesterday, is the sad part here is all their assets, all their IPs are worth 10 times as much as the company. That's the problem they have right now. Even just if you added like SpongeBob, TMNT, and Mission Impossible alone, or South Park or something like that. Right there, all those things. And South Park's even kind of a funky one because it's co-owned by Warner Brothers, last I knew. So that being said, or even Friday the 13th or something like that. Like, those franchises alone are probably worth more than the company at this point. And SpongeBob is a huge moneymaker. Ninja Turtles is a huge moneymaker. But they just don't seem to know how to get their shit together. And I can't believe they haven't been promoting SpongeBob more. Because don't they have like a new live action movie coming up here soon, I thought?
I know they have another movie on the horizon.
I thought they did. Or unless they already did it and it was on Paramount Plus or something like that. I know they did one recently. Like a third SpongeBob movie.
Mm-hmm.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway.
I know of one. I just don't know if it's out or if it has been out. Like, that's it. I haven't seen anything for it.
We need a mashup between SpongeBob and Beavis and Butthead. They could do it if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Jason Webster sends an Australian 5 and says, yes, Paramount is in a tough spot. Needs a merger or sale is a massive understatement. Absolutely. Well, and sad part is, I would say their best bet would be if they were bought up or merged with Warner Brothers or Sony. But those are the least likely scenarios right now. Like, Skydance is most likely to be the one to take over, and it's just not in their best interest, I don't think.
And it's a lateral move. I mean,
yeah.
Unless there's something going on at Skydance, like, isn't John Lasseter still associated with them to a degree?
I think that's about all they got. I mean, there's a few things, but again, 90% of the material Paramount's been putting out has been Skydance produced shit.
Yep. At least the stuff that they've been heavily advertising.
Well, they're behind like the Transformer movies and Mission Impossible and everything else. So, like, yeah, I mean, almost everything they've come out with has Skydance in the logo. So, Jason Webster also sends in another Australian 10 and says Paramount has produced distributed iconic films such as The Godfather, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Beverly Hills Cop, Top Gun, and The Naked Gun. Well, 3 of those ones you just mentioned, or 4 of those, I should say, that you just mentioned are their top grossing films of all time, or at least were for the longest time. Believe it or not. Not in that exact order, but pretty close.
Yep.
Once upon a time, Paramount was hugely relevant.
It was more like Beverly Hills Cop, Raiders, Godfather, then Top Gun and Naked Gun, but yeah. Or maybe Top Gun above Godfather. I'd have to go back.
Yeah, Naked Gun was big, but not Top Gun big.
No.
They were comedies never would perform as well as action thrillers or dramas.
The only one,
Naked Gun is also getting a spiritual sequel.
Yeah. Well, so is Beverly Hills Cop. So did Top Gun. So did Raiders. And there's been rumors about Godfather for a while now. Of course, those never go away, but yeah.
Well, are they going to get Andy Garcia back or something?
There was for a while that rumor. Then there was the other rumor that Leo was interested in doing something. And Coppola was talking about it for a while, but now, as far as I know, I think Megalopolis is supposed to be his last film. So if he's going to be involved, that's probably out the window.
There's only 2 Godfather movies.
Oh, there's 3.
I don't hate
that 3rd one's not a movie. I don't know what that is.
Dang it! All right, that's it. We're going to blows. Let's go.
Okay, Paulie.
Camera's on, buddy. Camera's on. Let's go.
He even tried yesterday to start that fight, and I'm like, motherfucker, are you trying to start this fight? And I'm behaving. Anyway, Jason Webster sends in another Australian 5, says Paramount handled U.S. distribution of Crocodile Dundee as well. Yes, that was a big hit. Big hit.
Oh, and they got that for peanuts too. That's the other part. Like,
well, the movie cost nothing to make on top of it all. Yeah. I think it's still, or at least it was for the longest time, the highest grossing film in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Hardcore Curtsy sends in 5 and says, I love that since Disney got Fox, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Tim Curry as Dr. Frankenfurter is technically a Disney princess. He, she, and Belle are my faves. I agree with you, Hardcore Curtsy, and not only that, Princess Leia should have that.
Susan Sarandon as Janet kind of has a stake in there too.
But yeah, no, I think it's all fair game. If you're going to play that game,
Barry Bostwick is the Disney prince.
Yeah, both at the same time, and the Queen, Alien, for that matter. While we're at it, yeah, I mean she's a queen after all. Then Jason Webster sends in another Australian 5 and says, PSA, in light of Star Trek having been infected by Kurtzman STD, please avoid all Star Trek content until further notice. Have a nice day. Well, thank you for that, Jason Webster.
It'll make real Star Trek anyway, so you don't have to worry about it.
That's true. And then Nikki D, and this is the one that's earlier, but gets into our next topic, sends in 5 and says, might be an unpopular opinion, but I preferred Shakespearean Thor with some incidental fish out of water humor that comes natural to his character.
Agreed.
No, I don't disagree with you much either. In fact,
you're not alone. But even if you were, you're still on the right side anyways.
Yeah, because this is something that's of the topic here. Let me see if I can bring this up. I'll just bring this up because really this is the main point of the story. I think Hemsworth was in like some GQ or one of those magazines doing an interview. That's kind of what Nikki D is referring to in our next topic here. Because Chris Hemsworth apologized basically for becoming a parody of himself. He had a little bit more to say than this, but this was kind of the gist of it. And he apologized for Love and Thunder.
Good, yes.
Did he actually say the word, I'm sorry, I was a beta ass bitch?
Not exactly, but close to something like that.
A real apology would have included the phrase, any of the following phrases. I'm sorry I was a beta ass bitch. I'm sorry I let him cuck me. And I'm sorry that the hero that many of you grew up with in comics was made to look like a buffoon. Did he say any of that?
On a Hollywood level.
He did say that he didn't stick the landing. He failed to stick the landing with the movie.
On a Hollywood level, this is the most you can get out of this guy.
Well, I want more. I want more.
He went out on a limb here on a Hollywood level, in my opinion. You don't want to fight with the studios. He basically said there was too much improv on set. I became a parody of myself. We didn't stick the landing. And I think that saying something like that is more than most actors would say. So
yes, 100% more than most actors.
Okay, I'll accept what Price is saying on one condition, that he admits there's 3 Godfather movies.
No,
there's only 2. There's only 2 Godfather movies.
Iron Man, I get your point, but I am going to give this one to Hemsworth because most actors won't even have the decency, the humility, the awareness to even say what Hemsworth did. This gives him that much more credibility in my eyes than most, because most will still blame the fans, say it's our fault. He's not putting the blame on ours. He's taking responsibility. How, like, that's a unicorn sighting in Hollywood nowadays.
Yeah, that's the part that stuck out to me because there was something I didn't really agree with him with. He didn't quite understand the character because one of his complaints was that, and this was part of him taking blame for where Thor went, was that he felt like he wasn't getting enough to do. Like he thought, oh, everybody else is having fun and doing this and that and the other, and I'm this boring character, right? And I'm like, dude, you didn't understand that you're basically the Superman of this group.
That's not true. Yeah, he's wrong about that.
And I agree with what Nikki was saying too, is there is a way to do his humor. In fact, I didn't hate Thor Ragnarok, but I understand people who didn't like it. But what I think came around that period that was funny and what I thought was even better and something they could have probably harvested was, his stuff with his roommate Daryl. Like they should have done a Disney Plus series where it was just him and Daryl. Like I thought that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, but
but that works with his humor, right? Because he's completely oblivious to the fact.
But what he's saying there is silly because he got 4 of his own titled movies and was in 5 Avengers movies or whatever. So he got plenty to do.
No, his complaint about not having plenty to do was as a result of Avengers 2 because he was kind of written out of that.
Yeah. Well, and my point was though is Love and Thunder could have been a decent film. And where they fucked up, and this is where I agree with Nick, is that he says right? He's not blaming the audience. He barely even blames Taika for shit. He's taking the blame. He's taking the fall.
I still give credit that he's trying to do anything, to be honest. It's nice that he says something.
Yeah.
I mean, again, even if he didn't quite understand the character, he's still taking responsibility for getting it to this point.
Yep.
And I agree with him in that respect. And I applaud him for saying, I am the problem. I let this happen. I got too much into the improv and stuff like that. Because then that's my thing with Thor 4 is that should have been taking us back to a more serious Thor. And that's the problem because there is some good stuff in the movie. The movie sucks. Like the scene with him and his mom is a great scene. This idea that Thor was, having, issues considering, he should have been able to be the one to fight Thanos and beat him. And he did fail, basically. So having that hanging on his shoulders is something to work with. And then you also have the last moments with him and Jane being ridiculous. So, like, anyway, you guys had something to say.
I just want to say that when Ragnarok came out, I saw it in the theater and I thought it was lighter in tone. I didn't walk out hating it, but now when I think about it, I think that set the wrong tone. Meaning, instead of it being a one-off that was a little more lighthearted, it became a blueprint for everything that they wanted to do with his character, as well as probably all the other MCU characters, and they learned the wrong lesson from it.
That's one of those things.
I grew to hate it.
In isolation, it should have been nothing more than a detour to say, hey, we're going this different type of adventure, and then we'll come back to the more familiar status quo with the character love as he is. Because we've had that in good comics, bad comics. There are characters who go on like a different venture. Maybe they kind of act slightly different along the way because they're on the unfamiliar territory. Okay, cool, fine and dandy. But it was not just a detour. It was, oh no, this is the thing going forward. And then not only is it the thing going forward, we're going to make it worse this time around.
Well,
and that's what makes the resentment. Yeah, right. It became the standard, and then makes you resent Ragnarok because it set the stage for that.
Yeah, I grew to hate it for that, and it had my hatred really grew for it later after Endgame. But he's part of the reason we ended up with Fat Thor. He was all in on this stuff when people were laughing. Now that they're not, he's walking it back. So I credit him for at least owning up to it a little bit and not just blaming fans and that stuff. But I wonder if a lot of it's just sort of trying to save face. Because, you guys love it? Great. Oh, now you don't like it? Nah, you're right. It sucks.
Well, see, one of the things that they got right with Thor Ragnarok is Thor loving the fact that he's a hero. What they got wrong is that they played it up too much for laughs.
Way too much.
Because that's what Thor should be. He should be the guy that's like, okay, he understands the responsibility. He loves doing it. It gives him purpose beyond just being, king of Asgard, and succeeding his father and whatnot. I was like, that's great. It's like, yeah, he should always be encouraging. Listen, we're heroes. We have to take responsibility. We're going to do that because that's what heroes do. That's great. That's Thor. But then when you basically bookend that with a joke, whether it diminishes this character or just diminishes the moment in the scene, it doesn't always work out right now, because you want to have that aspirational and a little bit of that tongue in cheek with his excitement for going in to save the day, but you can't oversaturate it to a point where it becomes a joke in of itself. And that's essentially what happened with Thor Love and Thunder. He was so happy to be a hero, he was not paying attention to being a hero, and that's why that crystal castle like collapsed in on itself, and that's why all this other nonsense followed as a subsequently. And his relationship with the Guardians of the Galaxy just lacked any chemistry or any real, connection to what he was doing. It was all just thrown at the wall. It had no structure, had no semblance. It was literally the Ghostbusters 2016 of Marvel.
They were very inconsistent with it. They were very inconsistent with it as well, because after Ragnarok, remember, you get Infinity War, and he's pretty cool in Infinity War, and he's badass, and he's a big element of it. Then they go right back to the debasement of him with the Fat Thor and all that other horrible stuff.
Yeah.
So, also
just remember, Tatiana Maslany is still blaming fans. So I'm gonna go on and once again, she's part of, pretty much the same ordeal. Granted, I know Hemsworth had much bigger, much more central role, but one person's taking accountability, the other still isn't.
I have to say that Tatiana Maslany, she got such a karma, like a boomerang of karma, because not only did she attack the fans and then there was no more She-Hulk, but in addition to it, she had another show, I think, for AMC, and they filmed most of the show, and then they told her that it was a Zaslav situation. They said, we don't even want to release it. It's never going to see the light of day. You're fired. And maybe she got paid for doing it, maybe she didn't, but I mean, you don't want to be on a show that somebody looks at it and you're the star of it and it's so bad that they don't want to put it on the air. That's not a good thing for your resume.
Well, in a related note, I don't know if anybody else has anything more to say about Chris. I say good for him. At least he took responsibility. It's not something we hear very often. I would say he did the Schumacher thing. And actually said, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's not
But the Russos think that the recent problems with the here we go again. Somebody trying to claim that aren't doing the superhero fatigue, but big generational divide. How about and how do we consume media? So they're going a different route. They're not.
Yeah, they're actually blaming the Gen Xers.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying.
Gen Z and Alpha. Gen Z and Alpha.
I was just gonna say, as opposed to what Hemsworth just did, and owned up and said, "Yeah, it was my fuck up," and he's probably right. He could have probably vetoed at any time what YTT was up to.
True,
right?
I think he could, yeah.
Because I have that interview.
That power, though. That's the other part, right? Sometimes
or had that interview.
Don't know that they have that power or have that ability to do it.
True.
Okay.
And I mean,
YTT must have blindsided Hemsworth with all those orgies.
Whoa.
Well, Hemsworth kept on walking in on him and all those orgies. I'm like, okay, I'm going out of here.
They did a lot of improv there.
But anyway, yeah. So the Russos said that they believe that superhero fatigue isn't necessarily to blame for studio struggles, but it's the consumers, it's the viewers, it's how we watch movies now.
It's your fault, Tom.
It's specifically the generation that has not been used to appointment viewing. Which, I mean, I'm not going to say they don't have a point, but the problem with this is you can apply this to all films.
Yeah.
And this, I think, actually supports more so what Tarantino and Scorsese were trying to say and people were obfuscating, and that is that this shit is not really cinema. And you have a whole generation now of kids that have been brought up on this shit, and they would not know how to handle a movie like Taxi Driver or even Pulp Fiction. They wouldn't know what to do with that. Now, if you give them Joker, it's different because they know what Joker is. Right, they're so used to seeing either a Marvel movie or a Harry Potter movie or a Hunger Games movie or a Mission Impossible movie or a Star Wars movie that they don't understand what it is to just go see a regular fucking movie anymore.
Because you train the younger audience that the only thing that ever comes out nowadays are sequels, remakes, ideas based off of existing IPs. You've trained them into the idea that you don't get original things. And this is, once again, this is what is harmful for the younger generations, because lots of generations have their things that they grew up on. And these younger generations, they lose out on that in that regard. Because they don't have things called their own. What they have is things that were everyone else's generations. And that's very unfortunate. Not only is it unfortunate for them, but it's also unfortunate for Hollywood, because when they see that they don't have a thing to call their own, they're going to look elsewhere for something. If movies can't give them their thing, well, that's why they'll look elsewhere for it, whether it's in reading, whether it's in video gaming. They're going to go out there and find that thing that's their thing.
They also like interaction a lot more. That's the thing. They like the instant response to their own interaction. The whole like button on Facebook, video games where the characters that you have, it's no longer a side scroller with like little puzzles to solve. There's cinematic moments in between. And so basically you've conditioned them to the point where it's like, oh, I'm watching a movie where it's just a bunch of cinematics, where I'm so used to actually doing something to get to those cinematics. And so sometimes I even skip those cinematics because I have more fun doing something. Why would I go to a movie just to see a bunch of strung together cinematics from a video game where I don't even get to play? Like, there's also that mentality. But
yeah, and that's part of the training.
Russos have the one valid point, which is the fact that, yes, the younger generation has a different perspective of how they take media in.
Oh,
but he's avoiding the bigger problem, which is the fact that at no point did Disney try to do anything to compete with that, because they literally laid most of the MCU on the shoulders of Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. These are the two writers that wrote 6 of the MCU movies during the peak of Marvel, which would be, at the time, a little over a quarter of what Marvel actually had produced at that moment. They didn't find any other writers or talent of equal or better caliber to replace them. And that is why you're getting the superhero fatigue, which, again, the fatigue is not the audience. Audiences will show up to anything that's good. They've been talking about superhero fatigue since Batman and Robin. That's
Yep, I remember.
You want to talk about real fatigue? Horror has a fatigue. There's so much horror. Barely any of them.
And that
really
doesn't even have a
resonate with
fatigue.
people, but they still keep making it.
But because you could argue it really doesn't have a fatigue. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, Script, and I always have. Because yes, we always have had these cycles of fatigue in superhero films, right? What did we bitch about before the MCU? We bitched about shit shooting in the sky and fart clouds, right? Because that's what everything was. Every fucking movie had a fart cloud or shit shooting in the sky.
But what's the irony here? The fatigue's not the audience. The fatigue is from the creatives who are pumping out this stuff as quickly as possible, and they're not getting a respite and figuring out new ways to do these stories.
It's like you have the same thing with music and other things when you only have the same 2 or 3 songwriters or producers and everything sounds the fucking same, whether it's, one artist or the other. It's the same kind of thing here. And Stan Lee asks a very valid question. Is it that the kids are just sick of all these 50-plus-year-old superhero stars? Well, do you mean the actors or the superheroes themselves? Now, on the actor side of things, I don't think that really much matters, because I don't think kids really, that's part of what I was getting to, is they don't gravitate to the star as much as the property, right? Like, this is where I think it was, who was it, Chris Evans or who said it, that Captain America is the star, I'm not the star, or whatever it was.
Anthony Mackie said it first,
or Anthony Mackie, or whoever it was, because they're right. Yep. And this is not a vehicle, and we've learned this for years. There's a big difference here, and these kids are not accustomed to going to see like a Sylvester Stallone movie or a Schwarzenegger movie. They don't understand that. They don't really, they know they like Timothée Chalamet, but do you hear them go, well, I'm going to see the new Timothée Chalamet movie? No.
Not once.
They're still going to see Wonka, or they're going to see Dune.
Anytime I hear a young Indian say they're going to go see a new John Wick, they don't say the Keanu Reeves movie. They say the new John Wick.
Yeah. Well, and my point to this also is that if this was true, then Blue Beetle would have been the biggest superhero movie ever.
Yeah,
because it didn't have a 50. In both cases, it didn't have an old superhero, and it also didn't have an old actor playing him.
Yeah, and let's not forget one of the biggest properties on Netflix involves 2 older guys and lots of younger kids that gravitated towards some guy named Johnny Lawrence and another named Danny LaRusso. I'm just saying, like, and
Well-
Cobra Kai does have a young audience. It doesn't just have the older audience. It's the fact that it has a young audience too.
It balanced.
And
It created
it's
a good
very well
balance.
balanced. Yeah,
It created a
Cobra
good balance
Kai is
between
a
the older
golden
cast and new
template.
characters.
Yeah,
But that's a
Cobra-
rarity, right?
Very
That's an
rare.
But
exception
it's
to the
still there.
rules. And
It's still
And
there.
going off of, I don't know if it was you who was saying this earlier, Price, or if it was Script, but one of you were kind of hinting at this point, and that is that, or maybe it was even you, Nick, and I can't remember now. So I'm just getting
Go
low
on.
blood sugar, but
Orgies?
like, yeah, something about orgies. No, but this whole idea, and Andre's talked a lot about this, and I'm sure he's planning a video at some point with it. Might even be part of our other series that we're kind of working on in the background. But basically, that these kids don't have their own thing.
Yeah, I
Right?
said that they don't.
Yep.
And that's,
Yeah, and it's been this way for 20 years, and we've grown into this stagnation, right? Like, what is the last thing? Well, Harry Potter, Twilight,
Hardwick.
Hunger Games,
Lord of the
John Wick, all
Rings.
these properties that are 10 to 20 fucking years old. And they're not even technically all that new in respect, or they didn't gain the popularity that something like Ghostbusters did in, 40 years
Terminator.
ago. Or
Yeah.
Terminator even did 40 years ago. And that's the thing, is we had our Terminators, we had our Gremlins, we had our Ghostbusters, we had our RoboCops, we had our these kids don't have those things. So
No.
instead of, they should be, because there's a group of kids now that should be nostalgic for things that they grew up on, and they don't really have that much. And what they're getting nostalgic for is the shit that that was in
Their
the
parents
past
grew up on.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, and that's why you veer that audience away. They're like, okay, well, if movies is going to give me the thing to have a thing for me to grow up on, they're going to go elsewhere, whether it's seeking out stuff like manga or seeking out video games or even working on being really invested in social media. They're gonna go elsewhere. They didn't say, hey, what can we give this audience? And they could maybe created a brand new IP that could have been, as Script saying earlier, they like to be involved in things that are very interactive. They could have done something to adjust to that. But no, they did. They just relied on their same safe old formula and just
Right.
expected the next generation to adjust to it.
Well, and Joey's kind of right here. An actor's name is no guarantee of quality. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's always been true.
And a star will
that's a
fade.
forever thing.
And a
but
star
you-
will fade. But what you'll have is, like, let's take John Wayne, for example. John Wayne
Yes.
did what? 200 fucking movies in his lifetime? Probably more than that.
A lot.
A lot.
And
lot.
what?
Started
Two,
late in his
and
life,
thank you,
too.
Claudia. I was going to say, you'd probably know. And what? At least 2 dozen of those are ones that we consider classics. And how many are just kind
Right.
of lost?
Yeah, that's the way it is. When you put
But
that
how
much
many
stuff out.
actors can you say have that caliber of just saying they got 10 fucking movies or 12 movies that have stuck around for history now?
Yeah,
I mean, even people like, eventually, we're not going to even talk about Clint Eastwood and stuff so much as a big, huge star, but that dude has been making movies now for 70 plus fucking years. He's got a huge catalog of films, and there's some of them that will never die. Dirty Harry's never going away. Good, Bad, and the Ugly is never going away, right? These movies will always be talked about. They will always be around because they stood the test of time. But now
Paint Your
there's things in
Wagon
the
Red
last.
will go away though.
What one? What paint your wagon red or whatever?
Red will go
Yeah,
away.
whatever. Well, those some of them, he's got plenty of them that
Yeah.
will. Same thing with Burt Reynolds. He's a good example because he's one that's done a shit ton of movies, but probably only has a handful that you could really hold up and say, "Here you go, Smokey and the Bandit, Deliverance." Well, we've been doing them all on
he
Nick's
did a lot in the
show.
70s and the early 80s. Then he kind of stopped.
Well,
And then you get
yeah,
to near his end of his career because otherwise, in the middle there, you got what, Cop and a Half and shit.
Yeah,
Cop and a Half. Then what else did he do? He did a TV series for. He's
He
doing
did.
TV now.
He did have
did that-
Evening Shade for a while.
He
Yeah.
did that one with we did with Eastwood actually. What was that? City Lights? Was it
I
Sundown?
don't. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what it's called.
Damn, I can't remember the name.
But it was a flop too. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But here's the other part too. When you're naming these actors, but you're also pointing out the aggregate of actual success in Hollywood, which is actually around 10% of their overall output. And that's something that hasn't really changed. I mean, granted, right now we're getting so much output over the last 10 years, mostly through the streaming service with the streaming movies and things of that nature, that it feels like the output is really 2% of it's good as opposed to 10%. So we're getting a lot of skewered aspects. And here's the other sad part. So Hollywood is built on the foundation of adaptations. And then the 70s and 80s became continued adaptations, and then they threw in the remakes. Now what we're having here is we don't have the adaptations anymore. We just have the remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and yeah, exactly. Because like, how many of the biggest movies are based on books?
Almost all of them.
Well, exactly. Exactly my point.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Quite a few.
Quite a few. Shit, even striptease is based on a book.
Yes,
Yep.
They don't even do that anymore. When was the last time you saw a movie that was based on a book that wasn't already made once before? Because there you go. You can't say Dune. You can't say, you know, even the Agatha Christie stuff and stuff like that we've had recently. They have been avoiding books forever. Like, I swear there's this huge disconnect.
That's the other part, too.
Yeah.
The new stuff that comes out, again, publishers have gained the bestseller list. So every book can become a New York Times bestseller. So it means nothing now. Rights are definitely
or it's in a Stephen King adaptation. Sorry.
Yeah. Or rights for those books are gobbled up by the studios, but most of the time the studios can't find anyone to adapt it worth a damn, because a lot of those books, I'm sorry to say, are garbage. Even like Bryan Sanderson could probably score a good adaptation, but the getting the pedigree that can actually do it justice, because the guy writes a lot and he's very, very detailed, and trying to like cut that down into a 2-hour film is no easy task. And even trying to break it up into a multiple part film, sure, you might be able to pull off a Lord of the Rings style authentic adaptation that you hit all the beats needed to satisfy the fans, but there's still no guarantee that you're going to get your audience in on that, because you make one mistake in that first movie, nobody's showing up for the sequels, even if you have shot them and they were paid for. And now, you're dividing, you're getting a whole another problem, and so sorted with that.
Even look at something like Die Hard, for instance. The first movie's a sequel to another book.
Mm-hmm.
The second movie is a book that's completely unrelated to the first book.
Different, yes.
Yeah, not even the same author or anything like that.
Nope.
And the third one is a repurposed script.
Yep.
The only Die Hard movies that suck are the ones that were actually written as Die Hard movies.
Intended to be Die Hard movies. And then you have then you had recently Ready Player One, which is based off a book that was not all that great.
That's probably one of the more recent ones, yeah.
You've got the Hunger Games prequels, which are also based off their books too.
But that's also another 20-year-old property now, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Although that prequel book came out a bit more recently than comparable. But again, it's just when you don't have the quality in one of the foundations that allows Hollywood to actually get inventive with film and books, novels, and whatnot, you don't get much going on. It literally, for the last 6 years, Hollywood studios have been looking at Reddit threads of subreddits for short stories and stuff for their content. And they've been adapting smaller horror films, primarily horror films, because that's what gets noticed. They're the easiest, the cheapest, and almost effortless to market. But that's where they've been going. And we've been seeing the results of it, which are basically having zero impact on audiences.
Yeah, and Argyle was a book, but here's one that's a good example of where
after the movie, that's the problem.
Well, and not only that, they snafu'd this movie feels like it was just sacrificed to another sacrifice for streaming.
It really was, because it's a ridiculous fun film. It
feels like the movie girls used to drag their friends to and shit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think that at first because it's got a little bit of the romancing the stone, but it's Matthew Vaughn.
Or a dating film or whatever, yeah.
But Matthew Vaughn goes crazy. Like, he does tons of violence and crazy stunts and gimmicks and things like that nature. So when you incorporate that into a tonal film that's like Romancing the Stone or Jewel of the Nile, it's a lot of fun. But it's not, they didn't market it well. They delayed it by a year. And I think that's what really hurt the people from actually enjoying this film, because it was supposed to come out in early 2023. And it was shot like 3.5 years ago. So,
well,
yeah.
On the point of Thor, Goddess of Whim sending in a very, very generous $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Goddess of Whim. You know you don't have to do that, but we appreciate the support here. It says, Hill, I'm willing to die on. Ragnarok is too serious a subject matter to be buddy comedy. Thor was the grown-up in the room. Not everyone can be the comic relief. We already had a dashing space rogue, and his name was Star-Lord. I agree with you in a sense that Ragnarok shouldn't have been mixed in with Planet Hulk. They should have just done a buddy kind of road comedy type movie like that, and then left the Ragnarok part out of it.
Agreed.
Yeah,
'cause,
there's
yeah.
too much of a race to the finish line with a lot of the MCU movies after Avengers 2, in my opinion.
You're not wrong, and that's part of the problem. And this is what I've been saying for a while: is they could have milked this for years. It's their own fault.
Yeah.
Right. That we got to this point. And I brought this up, I think, earlier on Mr. H's. If I said it here already, please stop me. But like, we forgot, like, the MCU in that period that you were talking about earlier, Script, they spoiled us. They got us spoiled, and because we forgot how shitty most superhero movies end up being. Like, we forgot that 75% of them suck ass. And most of them can't get past 2 movies before they start sucking ass. Right? Like, I mean, and that's the norm. So we've gotten to this point where I'm like, you know what? I'm surprised it lasted this long, and it's their own fucking fault for doing this to themselves, because they could have stretched this shit out for years, and they didn't. Script, I believe, I agree with you 100%. They rushed to this like a fucking eager prom date. Basically, it was like you couldn't wait to get to the fucking Infinity Stones, and then once you fucking got off, you're like, well, shit. Now what do we do? Well, I guess we talk for the next hour, right? Because
I guess
we paid for the room
and go back to the dance.
Yeah, we paid for the room. We're not just gonna leave. So yeah, I mean,
what's on cable? Click.
Click. Yeah. It was a very piss poor move on their part. And Guardians of the Galaxy was another one that, I mean, at least that got to run its course. Whatever future that has, we'll have to see with Star-Lord. But no, I think that after Ragnarok, well, not so much Ragnarok, but after the Infinity Saga ending there, the big thing was to bring Thor back to serious. And that's what they should have done with Love and Thunder. It should have been a more serious film.
And they should have never involved Jane Foster taking his name, wielding the hammer. They could have made, if they really want to give her powers, they could have made her own character their own name, but not taking his hammer and his name.
Crap rewarded is crap repeated. Ragnarok and the stuff with Fat Thor and all that stuff. People laughed at it, some anyway, and they hired Taika Waititi. What they think he was going to do? He was never. He won't do a serious movie.
He sacrificed story for jokes. That's the clip I always used to have. Yep.
And we didn't even get Beta Ray Bill. I would have loved to have seen Beta.
And that's right up his alley. That's what I don't understand too. Like, I mean, Waititi.
It would have ruined him though.
You're probably not wrong.
He did, yeah.
But thank you, Goddess Swim. That's very generous of you. Got Chaos Sonic 1 sends in 5 and says, my biggest problem with Thor 4 is that they ruined my favorite Thor story, and it was the story that got me into Thor, the God Butcher arc. Yeah. Well, there was your obvious
first arc from the God of Thunder run. No, that was not a bad story starting off, because I did read that later on after hearing enough good word of mouth about it. But then I think around 20-something issues in is when Jason Aaron does his abomination to Thor. Luckily, it's past the gore stuff at that point. But yeah, the earlier stuff was not bad.
Yeah, but you can't trust Jason Aaron.
No.
And that being said, like,
especially the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
This should have been your next big bad, because this is somebody who can kill a god. Right? Like, I mean, this should have been your next Thanos, and they fucked that, because you also had Christian Bale playing him, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, what a waste.
It was a waste.
A lot of better Marvel big bads they could have picked than him.
Could have.
Yeah,
but I like the concept, right? Like as it was presented in the film.
For Thor, that's a good one.
Considering Thor is one of your, if not your most strongest Avenger, you have somebody who can kill him.
Surtur would have been better. I'm sorry, go ahead. Surtur or somebody like that. But that was yeah. I hear you though. And they botched it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was horrible.
Michael McLeod. Go ahead. Finish off your thought, Nick.
No. Go ahead. You're reading super.
Wow, this is going to change the subject. So Michael McLeod sends in $20 and says, "Plot of the woke Godfather," and go. Well, it's about the Godfather who has a daughter who takes over everything, and she takes out all the men in
Yeah,
and
the
she replaces
godmother.
them with very diverse women. And yes, it's called the
She has
godmother
a daughter who is the
or
key
the
to
god
everything.
them.
No, if you want to make it really woke, you have Andy Garcia marries a woman who then takes the throne away from him and kills him and replaces
his cousin.
I can do better than that.
And then she transitions into a man.
I can do better than that. Andy Garcia comes back, questions his identity, changes his pronouns, and becomes the godmother.
That's even better than what I said.
Mikey
Yeah.
cracked it. Mikey cracked it.
Garcia wouldn't do
I
that.
wiped all you out. You're all wiped out. I won.
You know what's sad is that Brando would have actually done that.
He would. Garcia wouldn't play ball with that, but Marlon Brando might.
Oh, I think I'm gonna be the godmother from now on.
But they'll still keep the title of father. But you can't have a woman because it's just a construct. So the lady can still be the father.
Oh, Academy Award winner right there.
And if you don't, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
You know he'd play the hell out of it though.
Stella. Oh wait, wrong movie.
That's good.
Wait, I can use that. I want to be called Stella from now on. I have to go to a big and tall store to get clothes that fit my fat ass. I look good in a muumuu though.
And a frilly hat.
Really hat. I'll do my own makeup. Hopefully you got your $20 worth there. And Carlos, yes, the god they them.
I've been trying to figure that out. What's not if you had a sister and they became non-binary, what do you call her if not sister? Like what's the new word for that?
Cis bro? I don't know.
Birthing person.
Is it just stuck as sibling? Because that's not fun.
Birthing person.
I think actuality they use the term sibling, yeah.
What about if it's an aunt or uncle? I know, right? It's just trying to figuring.
And this is why it doesn't work.
It's now my mom's sibling. It's no longer my aunt or uncle. It's my mom's sibling or my dad's sibling.
My former aunt, the artist formerly known as Aunt. Or aunt. I'm sorry. It pisses people off when I say that sometimes.
Aunt.
It's off a construct.
One small and annoying and ruins your picnic, and the other one is an insect.
Yes.
Yeah, Sonic 1 sends in 5 and says, Tom, the God Butcher arc would have introduced the next Thanos, aka Null, the god of symbiotes. Yeah. Who could have challenged the heroes and bring in Venom. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which
where
is
they tied in. They made Venom go cosmic and mystical and all that stuff, which to me actually makes more sense of him having Spider-Man's powers. But I know exactly what he's talking about. So, I mean, yeah, that would have been preferable, but still, there's still other villains they could have gotten to have. Once again, we didn't even get the Sphinx. Like, I would like, and Clubby knows it, Diva, you guys know, I would like to have seen the Sphinx. Now, that is a very effective villain. Like,
that would have worked.
Oh, dude, the
Very
Sphinx
cool.
would have been a great follow-up because he is very formidable and he is very, once again, another cosmic entity. It would have been perfect. But yeah, the ultimate threat would have been Fancy Dan. Just saying.
Fancy Dan.
I'll play Fancy Dan.
Oh, that's inside baseball between me, Clubby, and
What about the Condor and the Diamond Head?
Oh, my boy, the Condor. Oh, dude, all roads would have led to the Condor in my adaptation.
Speaking of
in my
condors,
adaptation, it would have been the Condor. Oh, dude, I'll just show you a photo later. Talk about the Condor.
I was gonna say, did you guys see the images I posted? Because it turns out this is probably legit. I wasn't 100% sure, but yeah. Did y'all see this shit?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Oh my god,
who is? I mean, could this possibly be some kind of something John Walker is going to be wearing?
I don't give a fuck. Let me get this straight. You've literally made the black dude into Captain America, so you could cast what looks like probably Hispanic dude as the Falcon now.
who looks like Michael Keaton in fucking Spider-Man as the fucking Vulture. Why?
He does look like the Vulture.
What the fuck? We already had Falcon.
Not
This is
anymore.
stupid.
Captain Falcon. So he's gonna be the Falcon. This guy.
Yeah, whoever the fuck this is. And that looks dumb as hell. Like, it looks bad.
It does.
And I wasn't so sure, but then somebody posted another picture of this exact same image with a poster behind the Captain America Happy Meal. And from the same source that I got this from, and I believe that's, so I don't know for sure. This one I'm less sure about, but I'm starting to become more sure. This is the Hulk, kids, and I think this is the Hulk because they actually brought out another image to try and say, oh, no, this is actually what the Hulk looks like. And it's not even a real image. It's just a fucking drawing. But this is supposedly, like this looks like a standee for like a theater or something.
That looks horrible.
It looks horrible.
What in the?
Yeah, it looks awful.
Good
Man. This is gonna be a huge bomb.
This is a mess.
Oh,
Aren't you like a year away anyway for this thing coming out if it ever does?
Yeah.
oh, it's gonna come out and it's gonna be the bomb of the bombs. Like seriously.
Oh, well, yeah,
This
no
is gonna
question
be
about
the atom
that.
bomb of the MCU. I think it might
I'm
be
curious
just
to
as
see
bad
it.
as the Marvels.
I'm going to tell you what, Russos, this is what's killing. This shit right here.
The worst part about the Russo thing that is a few things. One of them is being that just because you know how to direct a movie doesn't mean you know how to have the right opinion on how things are going and why things aren't going well. So once again, folks, let that be proof. You could be smart at one thing, but totally not smart at another. A, B, they mentioned, oh, well, kids are watching streaming. I'm like, yeah, okay, well then look at almost every single show of the MCU that absolutely failed on streaming.
Yeah.
And I mean bigly failed. And you want to tell me it's streaming? Okay, well then come back to me about the streaming shows.
I don't know why they think anyone's going to go see this. Why? Everyone's going to. I mean, Joe Public's going to go. Wait, that ain't Captain America, and he won't even talk like that either. Even another place. I thought that Chris Evans guy was Captain America. What is this? They don't know. Oh, well, just throw money away.
Makes my brain hurt.
Eventually, the debt's going to come due. Seriously, eventually it's going to come due.
Chaos Sonic 1 says the sad thing is all of this wouldn't happen if they didn't fire James Gunn, and say what you will, but he was mad. Yeah. No, I've said that before too. It was stupid.
It did not help. Yeah. Because James Gunn would have at least probably sought out to find additional writers to replace McFeely.
I think it would have kept the same quality. Because remember, him coming out and saying that he was the one who had to construct the Infinity Saga just so he could write his movies.
Yeah,
that was the first moment I had like this, oh shit, kind of thing. Like, so Kevin Feige is not this person we thought he was, kind of thing.
No, and even James Gunn, whatever he structured out was really just the bare bones, and it was filled in by basically Steve McFeely and Chris. God, I forgot his name again. Keep forgetting his name. Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus. Like those guys, again, 6 movies in 9 years is really hard to do because it takes around 2 years just to write a script that's good. And they did 6 of them in 9 years. That should have been a 12-year job. And plus, they also did the Agent Carter TV series as well. On top of that, that's a lot of work.
Well, that one I would remove from my resume if I was there.
Yeah, they should.
Well, first season was actually not bad. I don't know what the heck was going on.
I thought it was pretty bad, but second was terrible.
I was going to say in hindsight now, yeah. I mean, I don't remember thinking it was all that great at the time.
He's great, but it was
maybe
another
compared
one of those,
to some of the Disney Plus shows, it would suddenly look good now.
But yeah, that's my point. That's my point exactly.
It was pretty bad.
No, go ahead, Clappy. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. No biggie. Go.
Connor Dorian, aka Charlie Manx, Charlie Manx, sends in $5. Says Netflix is making a live action Scooby-Doo TV series. Well, they are paying for a live action series that will be made by Warner Brothers. But yes, this is true.
Yes, somehow Greg Berlanti got back on the Warner lot.
Yeah.
Probably because his other show that he did for Netflix got picked up. Now, keep in mind, Greg Berlanti has a difficult time recently adapting traditionally animated shows into live action. He did 2 pilots for Powerpuff Girls that failed dramatically. Like they didn't even.
Oh, that's right.
They were never leaked. I have the screenplay for the first one.
Yeah.
Pictures got leaked though.
Pictures got leaked, but the actual pilot itself never got leaked. The second pilot also never got leaked. And it was such an embarrassment.
But I've heard it was pretty bad. Yeah, I was going to say.
It pretty much caused him to be told, don't come back on the slot again unless you can make us money. And then he went over to Universal. I think he did some sort of a mystery show for Netflix that nobody actually liked, but Netflix paid for it. And now he managed to broker a deal to try and get back in on Warner Brothers because rumor has it he wants to get in on DC again because of his Arrowverse stuff. But so far, DC Studios is saying no. And so he thinks that if he can do a Scooby-Doo show and connect with James Gunn, who kind of got his big start with Scooby-Doo, he can weasel his way in. But what I've been learning, at least over the last few weeks, is that Netflix appears to be the place where if you're not starting your career up, you're going there when your career's going down.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the new home. It's the new video
worse
store.
Than home video. That's the thing. It's worse than home video.
The only way I'll say that it may not be is because they actually give Snyder way too much fucking money for those movies.
Well,
if it was straight to video, he wouldn't get that kind of budget. But yes,
exactly. It's basically a big budget version of a low prestige title. It's basically saying if you can't make studios money, you go to Netflix because they don't need to make money. Off your films, they just need to hold on to their subscribers. And content does that with the Netflix model. It doesn't work on the regular streaming things because Netflix, Andre is right. Netflix isn't a streamer. It's a platform.
No, and that's what I said. It's like the new video store, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as Berlanti in this show idea goes, I wonder if he's doing it live action also because the new animation director is probably pissed about this. Because I don't know if that's how he got around it. Because Scooby-Doo is a huge commodity for Warner Brothers. Like, make no mistake about it. There's a reason why Velma was received the way it was and why people still talk about it. And I've heard the second season is even more batshit crazy than the first one.
Yeah, but that's the point of
they posted a review about it today.
If they keep putting out batshit crazy stuff, it ain't going to be worth crap.
How does it help their brand? I think that what Mindy Kaling did to the Scooby-Doo brand is terrible.
Doesn't make me want to watch.
No, you do a live action version that kind of pulls in like the supernatural crowd, you could be fine. And don't get me wrong, that's my point, is that Scooby-Doo has its own built-in audience.
But you know what's sad is that the Velma Scooby-Doo is probably going to look like a parody of what Greg Berlanti makes on Netflix.
Maybe, but I was just going to say, the thing is that they collectively have rejected Velma because that to them does not represent the franchise.
Correct.
And I've told people this before, like probably the best version we're going to get in live action is that James Gunn, I can't remember who directed it, but he wrote it from the original one, because the sequel is a horrible film. And at that point, that's about the best you can do with that, I think.
Why did they greenlight the Velma show then?
Berlanti talked somebody into it.
No, the Velma one though. Berlanti is not the I mean the Kaling one. How did they greenlight that one?
Actually got it greenlit under the old regime before Zaslav came in, and it was already well enough into production he couldn't cancel it. And
that I know, but I'm saying why under what pretense did the people that actually have the licensing that then make the decision, did they think that it was okay to give her this Scooby-Doo even without Scooby-Doo? Why would they want this show?
Of The Office, and The Office is one of the most popular stream
Plus,
shows.
you got to remember when that was greenlit and who was there.
Yeah, the Summer of Love or whatever.
Well, not just that. Who? What's her face?
Ann Sarnoff. Yeah,
Ann Sarnoff. Yeah.
She wanted the Superman and Batman replaced with little girls, so I guess it makes sense. But I think that it's really damaging to the brand, Velma.
I agree, and I don't think this Berlanti thing is going to be nearly as damaging. I think it'll be more in line with the brand, but it's still going to suck. And the other thing that we're getting now is a bunch of fucking Snyder bros going, see, they'll have competing. It's like you're talking fucking apples to oranges here, buddy.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo is one thing that there has been a version of Scooby-Doo in production, if not multiple versions of the franchise since its inception. It is one of those
Warner
rare
Brothers is never going to
franchises.
license an animated Scooby-Doo to someone else.
That was what I was getting at. Exactly. See, and that's where I said Berlanti got around this, and I bet you the animation guy right now is pissed about this, but whatever. There's not much he can probably fucking do. But Miscellaneous Varied sends in $5, says those books can work better as a TV series considering the oddity of Aragon. The Aragon movie of 2006 skipped so many details, it's quite questionable. You know, this is one I've heard people bring up. I've never read the novels, but I do remember a lot of people saying that that movie was a huge missed opportunity. So I'm not real familiar with it all, but I've heard several people say that. Chaos Sonic 1 says, I think that is the Red Hulk, not the normal Hulk. That is true.
Yeah, it is.
It is the Red Hulk, and it still looks like a red burnt piece of shit. And then Paulie's in the house. How you doing? This is breaking news. More than 30 years, Disney is unearthing Blood In, Blood Out. The 1993 crime drama will be available to stream on Hulu starting May 1st. Ooh, does that mean there's a new HD version of it? Interesting.
What? I need a HD.
You know,
what they won't censor it or do something weird? How do we know it's the real deal?
Hulu doesn't do that. Yeah.
well, and I've been waiting for like Kino Lorber to announce they're going to do a fucking Blu-ray or 4K of this. And if there's a new HD scan of it that's going to be on Hulu, that's a good step in the right direction.
I'll believe it when I see it. Something seems that once you put Disney into the equation, I don't know. But
well, we raised a lot of awareness with that.
That would be tomorrow.
when does it go? When does it go live?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yes, May 1st. Tomorrow.
Oh my God, we're going to get a viewable version of it.
Blood Out?
What?
Blood In, Blood Out is going to be there tomorrow?
Yes.
Awesome.
So I would assume it's the 3-hour version then, because that's not what the theatrical cut was called.
It was called Bound by Honor or some nonsense like that or something.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it's the director's cut.
I've only seen Blood In, Blood Out. I've seen the one that you sit for 70 hours and watch it.
Yeah.
You're the other half of mi corazón.
Yeah, I've never even seen the other version, so I can't imagine how bad it is.
You have a really good accent.
That was pretty good.
Gracias,
he may be Spanish, we don't know it. Yeah. ActionCom sends in 5 says, if Netflix is for when the career is going down, where can I find the new Roger Corman talent? That's a good question.
Festivals, sadly.
Yeah, festivals. Like A24 and Blumhouse are kind of taking a lot of the wind from what used to be. Because that's the thing what Script is talking about is there's never been such a thing as horror fatigue, because it always has this very loyal fan base. And horror fans will watch anything, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll watch a very expensive Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and then they'll also watch a very inexpensive Leprechaun movie in the same day. And to them, it's the same amount of entertainment value.
Yeah,
So-
they are the low-hanging fruit of Hollywood that keeps them sustained.
Pretty
Sadly.
much.
I mean, it's not an insult. It's actually kind of a blessing. But
Corman did more than horror. But what Corman was cavalier in doing shit on the cheap, and not only that, finding talent, hidden talent, and nurturing that talent. Sometimes losing that talent because of his stubbornness, but at the same time, doesn't matter. He still has a cavalcade of people that came up through him that are probably unsurpassed just within alone. You mentioned like James Cameron, Joe Dante, and a few others that were part of his isn't Jonathan Demme, I think, was also one of them too, and a few others. But yeah, so like he has so many people that worked with him throughout the years that he got their start. So it's kind of hard to say now. He's kind of his own animal
for now, because Troma's still making stuff. Kaufman is
Troma was kind of always like the Wish version of Roger
Roger
Corman to begin with.
Exactly.
So
I know, but the thing is, they're still putting stuff out. Roger Corman
True,
and his
so is
thing
Full
is not
Moon,
so
but-
much. But yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, someone's going to fill that gap, and when they do, they're going to be pretty popular.
Shudder is kind of like they don't really produce a lot of stuff up front, but they buy a lot of stuff, which Corman
Yeah,
also
they're
did
pretty
too.
Yep.
Especially for the drive-ins and stuff. But yeah, with that, I think we've filled up the show. there's some other stuff we were going to talk about, but we're going to wrap it up here. Who made Basket Case? That was Frank Henenletter, or however you say his name. That was an indie feature. I'm trying to remember, because the original company that released it doesn't own the property anymore, because it flopped on its initial release because they cut it down to get an R rating against the director's wishes, and it was Joe Bob Briggs who revived it at a film festival, and he insisted that he get the director's cut. And then when it was popularized because of that, so then they re-released it again, and I can't remember what company owns it. Was like Compass or somebody like that, Entertainment, I can't remember now, some little company. Henenlotter, though, is the director. So yeah, that just got a 4K release, actually, really good one. So check that out if you get a chance, if you're a fan. Basket Case is a great example of making a really cool horror movie on the cheap. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen it before, but it's good. And with that, let's get out of here. Script Doctor, what you got coming up?
Scripts on Saturdays. This Saturday, got a more of a drama we're doing this time. Last week's was crazy, and technical difficulties. The first technical difficulties of our series. So hopefully, won't be the last, but hopefully we won't have another hiccup then. But regardless, yeah, look for that show this Saturday at 7 p.m. and then Thursday hanging out with Price, talking Quantum Leap.
Yeah, we had a really good show the last time on Quantum Leap. It was great. Thanks for everybody who came from here to there, by the way.
Yes, indeed. And Price, what do you got going on besides that?
So right now after this stream, I'm going to be on Diabolical Soul, aka The Gooch, and I'm going to be talking about Scavenger's Reign episode 8. Then after that, I'm going to have the Night Owl with my friend Dread Roberts, and yeah, that's happening today.
Right.
And I made a video about what's his face, about Velma season 2, and I think people will like it because I kind of condensed everything in about 8-9 minutes, so you don't have to watch for hours. It's just kind of a very short summary of it, kind of like the Cliff Notes.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I did my plugging.
Awesome. And Nick, in about 25 minutes or so, you're going to be talking some Tropic Thunder, are you not? He is. I think he stepped away.
It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be diabolical. You guys should check it out.
Wow.
What? I tried to fill in for him. What was I gonna do?
Awesome. That was awesome. That was unexpectedly awesome.
What?
That's what he would have said if he was here. I did.
You're
the
not
best
wrong. You're not wrong. Klobby, what you got going? So this will actually, over after this, this will lead you over to Toxic Tuesdays or head over to Toxic Tuesday after this to see us talk about Tropic Thunder. I'll probably drop in there. But Klobby, what you got going on?
I don't know. I forgot already. No. Oh yeah, nothing tonight. But
lies and deceit.
Well, I was thinking about following Mike's example and not being a YouTuber since he has so much fun at not being.
Oh well. Well, we love you too much for that.
I guess I'd come visit here, of course. Wednesday night. Well, hopefully, I don't know if Loki's going to have his comic book roundtable tomorrow night at 7, but if he does, 7 Central, I'll be there. And then my wild card Wednesday night, tomorrow night at 9, and the Clubhouse Thursday with Raquel and Mark. And then hanging out with Nick and the gang Friday night, and Saturday night Star Trek on Saturday night. So, and Sunday night Geekery at the Great Marketing with the Seas Channel L. So all over the place. Thank you for having me, buddy, and I appreciate it. And it's great hanging out with everyone tonight.
Glad to have you. And Mikey, are you back, my friend?
Yeah.
What do you got going on?
Are we on Doomcock show tomorrow night?
Awesome sauce. And then we got Araxis. This has been a member for 7 months. Thank you so much, Araxis. It sounds like a video game.
It does sound like a video game.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. We appreciate it. Hell of a crowd tonight. Hit that like button on your way out. Don't forget to tip your waitress. And until next time.
Oh.
I don't know. Just stuff.